Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to have a look at the premium AMX SS.11, the ATGM vehicle in Tier 4. But before that, I have the winners of the giveaway from the last video for the Charby ones. And they are Jack Little and Killer Mac and Cheese. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for everyone who commented too. I will be doing more of these again in the future, of course. It just provides, we're providing rather, when I have the money to do so, but thankfully I got to give away 2 this time. Hopefully next time we'll be able to give away more. But anyway guys, please reply to your original comment with your in-game name and I'll get that sent over to you as quickly as possible. So thank you very much. Also, before I start properly, I would just like to give a really big thank you to my good friend Kurt, as he got these vehicles for me and without him I would not have been able to make these reviews for everyone. So this is his name. If you feel like sending him a message or see him in game, just tell him thank you, and send him something nice, as he's a wonderful person, and I certainly do not deserve him. So, anyway. Here we are, the AMX-13 SS.11. Now, I think this vehicle does work, but its capabilities are very limited, in that it's not a vehicle that you can keep alive for very long. You're not going to be able to kill very many tanks. This is the epitome of a scout tank, the Gaijin we're talking about in the last update, in that it's a vehicle that's gun isn't that great, but it has lots of different features that can make it functional to the team, and that it can help repair teammates, you can scout things, and you know, it does do that job well, but that job itself doesn't really contribute much to the outcome of the team, and doesn't necessarily get you a lot of points. And for it to work effectively, you need the right map, and you need the right team composition. You need to play this tank around other vehicles to make it the most effective, because if you go off on your own, you know, you can scout things, sure, but no one's going to really be in proximity to, you know, help you deal with them. Like I've had a couple of matches where it's been like a small game, like a 7v7 on, you know, large Sinai, and I haven't been able to make use of this tank's features because no one else is there to support me, and this tank can't do a lot on its own. I mean, I've had quite a few decent games with it, you know, I've got quite a lot of kills, but it's all just been luck, really. This isn't a vehicle that can be consistently good, and as a premium vehicle, I think that's where this particular vehicle falls down a little bit, because even if it was lowered to 6.3, maybe even 6.0, as the other AMX is, its job would still be the same. I mean, I'll be able to kill a couple more things from the front, maybe, but it still doesn't really change up the way it's played. And I don't really think it's a good premium vehicle, because if it is the introductory one people are going to buy, they're not going to have anything to back it up with for a really long time. And for some things, like say the T29 you could buy for the American tree, that wouldn't be a problem, because that tank can hold its own on pretty much every map, in every situation, an up tier or top tier or anything. But this tank can't, in that it's really situational in its effectiveness. It's not always going to work. And for a premium vehicle you want to take out and get the rest of the tree with, it's not going to really do its job as effectively. Now a tank like the B1 or the FL10, which are the other gift vehicles for the French tree, they do their job because they are pretty much constantly effective, in that on most maps and on most situations they will do well. This tank can't do that. So if you're on the fence about buying this until now, maybe you've got a bit of money after Christmas and you might be thinking about buying this vehicle, I don't really recommend it unless you really like the playstyle of light tanks, or scout tanks as I guess they are now. This isn't really the vehicle to grind the tree out. But it can still work decently well for what it's designed to be, at least relative to the game, and it can be functional. And I have a game today that I think shows it being relatively functional. Anyway, before that I will run through the lineup that I've been using for 6.7 France. Right, the lineup that I've been using for the AMX is the Lorraine, as I think, to be honest, it's probably the best vehicle that you could be using alongside the AMX-13. It's just got the mobility, it's got the gun, it's just everything you could really ask for, and I think it's probably even, in some regards, a little bit better than the AMX-50 at 6.7, along with the AMX. But even so, again, it does the job of a medium tank, and there isn't really anything else that you could be putting into this lineup alongside the AMX with just about the same effectiveness. So for your aircraft, I personally like the Yak-9T more than the AD-4, just because you have the opportunity to be really versatile as a fighter, have that fighter spawn cost, as well as killing pretty much any tank that you can see top down with a 37mm. But if you don't have this, I'd probably go with the AD4 or the Bearcat if you don't have that, or if you don't have that, even the Hellcats, as they do have rockets and bombs. You know, it's It's the next best option, I'd say. For your AA, the AMX-13 is pretty decent. I'm not really too keen on it yet, but it's just, to be honest, the best AA that you could be using, as the fire rate is pretty decent and its killing power when it connects is pretty good as well. So, bit of a short lineup, but sadly there isn't really much versatility to put into the lineups at this point. But even so, let's get on to the game. Right, here we are on Fields of Normandy, and I want to prefix it by saying this game isn't really that impressive comparatively, but with this vehicle itself, I don't really think it's about, trying to get all of the kills in the match. It's more about exploiting the ability you have as a scout tank to get the most RP you can, because you're not going to be the most effective tank on the battlefield in that regard. That's not your job anymore. And where this thing is balanced is that it's balanced really alongside it being a scout tank. And granted, it has the ATGMs that bump the BR up a little bit, but again, I don't think that's really important. But the main way to play this, I think, is just exploiting the scouting mechanic and rattling off as many shots as you can to try and just get the assists in, because that is really what you can be best at. So what I tried to do initially here was go to the north flank and use the binoculars to scout any tanks coming up from the north spawn into the C point. But I do hang back a little bit too far, I think, and most of them go off straight down the line directly to C because there's no one really engaging them. So again, though, I want to be a bit hesitant to push up a bit too far because usually it's just going to get me killed and there isn't too many tanks around me to give me support if I need it. Not that I'm going to really survive a couple of hits anyway. Scout the King Tiger coming up from the spawn, and immediately the tank in front of me reacts to it, and the tank next to me does as well. And that's really the main point of this vehicle, is if you have good teammates, you're going to get good rewards because, they are going to react to the tanks that you spot. So hanging around teammates like this, not pushing up too far, not really trying to, I guess, be the hero and get lots of kills yourself, is going to be the way this tank should really be played if you're going to use it to grind. Because it's not a tank that is going to, it's not going to be the most effective tank in any match, in any BR. So the King Tiger gets killed, and at this point I can see C's been completely capped, and a couple of tanks have the capture point, so I know that there is at least 2 or 3 tanks on the point itself. So I don't want to go directly in because I don't know where they are at all, so I'm going to hang behind these tanks here and sit in the defilade in the field next to the town, and again use the binoculars to look over, make sure I know where everything is, scout it up, help my team who have the more powerful guns to take out whatever's on the point, and then hopefully I can clean up some of the little tanks afterwards. So you can see the Lorraine is engaging something. I don't know if it needs help or not, so I'm going to rush as quick as I can, round behind the bushes. Ferdinand takes it out, and I don't want to push onto the point yet, again, because it's not being decapped, so I know there's a couple of tanks on there still. And King Tiger gets spotted there as he takes out the Lorraine. And I'm going to try and get him with the ATGMs, but even so I'm still scouting just in case, and making sure everyone else is aware of him as well. First one misses, as I am shooting through the bushes, and I'm not really being too accurate with them. But these ATGMs reload really quick on the point as well, so losing them all isn't really too detrimental. So I cripple him with the second one there completely, and I can push on to the point. But I know there's another tank behind him on the map, and it's a medium, so I'm going to try and spot that first before I take him out, because even if the scouting bonus goes away for that tank, I'm going to get the assist anyway. See the Panther right through the engine, because the AP will go right through and kill the rest of the crew. Wait for the autoloader to come back, and go through the turret and kill the last crew member of the Tiger. And just wait now and get the points from capping C. So most of the team is already dead at this point, but I've already done pretty well for a game in this tank generally, because you're not going to live long. And the main thing you need to do is to surround yourself with the bulk of the team for the most part. So by this point I can see that there's at least an AA in the spawn, so I'm going to push up, get the scout on that, fire a little bit too low, don't get any damage really, and see a Puma there, and he can still do damage to me, so I know I don't want to be stupid, I want to be a bit careful. Scout it, shoot it just in case. I get the assist on the SDK and get the kill on the Puma. And it's always really helpful to just spam the scout. even if you know that you're going to kill the tank, because yeah, it gets you a couple of lions, but if something goes wrong, it's going to die. Somebody's going to kill it even if you don't, and because of how quickly it reloads, the scouting thing that is, it's always worth just every single thing you see, even if you know you're going to kill it, you never know. So everything's pretty much dead now, so I'm just going to push up around the church and get some scouts and some kills, hopefully, on some of the things that are respawning. There's not really much else to do. Little tiger there, scout again, try and go for the kill, but bounce off the sloped plate, and he does get taken out again just before I fire. And even though I'm not getting these kills, as you'll see at the end, this thing does rake in a pretty good amount of RP for the you know, the contribution it actually gives to the match. It's not as bad as you might think. So, see a Coelian there, try and go underneath the turret, maybe get the ammo, but doesn't quite work. But do end up just picking him off as well. Still getting the scout in just in case, because again, right here, these players shooting at him might easily get the kill as well, and it's just guaranteeing that I get a little bit extra point-wise there. So, fire off the last round of the magazine, put the smokes up just to make sure I'm not going to get shot in the back by one of the things that we've just killed, and I'm going to sit on the point, get the ammo back, and get the ATGMs back as well, just in case. So, this wasn't really an impressive game, I know that, but you're not really going to get impressive games in this thing. It's going to be maybe 1 in 10, 1 in 15 matches you're going to get more than 5 kills. So that isn't really what you should be aiming for with this tank. It doesn't work well on its own, and it's just not really like any other tanks. I mean, I think some other light tanks have now been a bit adjusted in the sense that they now have the scouting ability, and that can change how they play. They do have a use. But because this tank is so high in BR, and its gun is so, well, it's not as reliable at 6.7 than it is at 6.0, 4.7, even with the SA-50 Sherman. So playing it like this, I think, genuinely is the way to go. Now, the last thing left really is this Dornier. Take a shot and miss, and just wait for him to hopefully come through the trees to see if I can get another kill on him, swing it round and go right into the pilot, and oh, that made the game for me there. A very lovely kill, just knocking the pilot out like that, but even so, that's the 5th kill, effectively. I don't really think that, I wasn't happy with this game initially, until I saw the reward at the end, and I thought, okay, maybe this is the way this tank works, maybe this is how it should function, to be the most effective consistently, and I think it is. So, just taking into account that the Dornier might respawn, I'm just going to drive back, see if I can get a scout again or a kill, and there he is, another King Tiger. Get the scout, and he immediately gets taken out by another AMX, and that's the last bit of action in this match. So, I get 5 kills and I think 5 assists, 4 of them being scout assists, 1 of them being a normal assist. And for most vehicles, you'd think, that's a pretty mediocre game, that's not really impressive, what's the point? But this vehicle can't do anything more than that, really. You will struggle to get a game, I don't want to say better than this one, because that's not really fair, but a game that's, where you're going to have more of an impact. It's not really something that's going to be all too common. So, when I was loading into the screen here, I thought, okay, maybe 5, 6k, I got 9,000 research for 5 kills and 5 assists. And I don't think that's that bad at all. And coupled with this tank's just, I guess, presence on the field of it not really being a prominent force, I guess, that's a really pretentious way of putting it, but that's not bad. But, I think most people are used to playing normal tanks, I guess, like, heavy tanks, medium tanks, I'm sure light tanks as well, they all have their own set way of playing them. But this tank doesn't really fall into a category like that, so I think people will struggle with it because it doesn't really fit any sort of playstyle that you've learned so far, and that's why I think, coupled with a few other things, it took me so long to make this video, because I was so stuck on trying to get one of those games where, I get 7, 8, 9 kills and loads of RP and everyone's, cushy. But that doesn't happen in this vehicle, because at the BR it's at, those games don't happen. you are a support tank. You are the epitome of a support tank. This is exactly what they meant by the gun not being effective, but you still have the ability to kill tanks. Maybe not from the front as reliably, but you have the ability to kill tanks, but it's also, you know, split with the ability of being a proper support tank. So some tanks have the ability, like, you know, the T92, the Object 906, they get the bonus of being a support tank, but their playstyle is the same. Because as they are, their mobility is good for a light tank, and their guns are good for light tanks. They can function as proper light tanks, but I think this one doesn't. Because mobility, speed aren't really, you know, that good. They're good, sure, like for what the tank is, but they're not impressive enough to really go really far with the flanking thing. You know, it's pretty easy to kill, and it's not a tiny target either. It's quite tall for what it is. So it doesn't fit the light tank meta, and it becomes a new vehicle itself that I think is just the support tank. And that's really the only thing you can do with this vehicle, unless it does get lowered in BR, which, to be honest, I think will happen, which is the nature, I guess, of higher tier premiums. They will get lowered in BR if people aren't really having a good time with them, because Gaijin want to please people who are paying them the most money, which, you know, on the surface you might think that's a bit sleazy or whatever, but it's, you know, it makes complete sense. And plus the vehicle does deserve it a little bit as well, being a €40, I think it's €40 premium. You know, it deserves getting a little bit of help like that, because this vehicle isn't easy to play. It's not fun to play consistently, and it's not easy to play unless you want to play it very passively. So, you know, you don't need to really go out there, do the flanking. You can play it just sticking behind everyone else, getting the support scouting on, and it does work like that. But it's just not really a versatile machine. The ATGMs don't really make it a 6.7 vehicle, and that completely, from the front, most of the time nullifies the gun. And you can't do what most light tanks do around this BR, you know, roll around corners, stop a little bit, take the shot, and, you know, whittle them down. Because of this tank's turret, it does rock quite a bit when you are rushing and going around corners, and it takes a while to stabilize. So that's another reason why it doesn't play like a light tank. I mean, I'm not saying that it can't play like a light tank. I'm sure people who are better at playing light tanks than me are going to have a great time with it. But for the general, I guess, player, this tank is best used in like a harsh support role. You know, if it's a heavier tank from the front, ATGMs. If it's not, you can whittle them down with your gun, and you're probably going to get an assist because everyone else's gun at the BR is going to be able to one-shot things pretty reliably, and you're not. But you're going to have to live with the assists. But as you can see in the gameplay, getting those assists, it still is going to get you a decent amount of RP. It's not going to be an awful result, even if you are just getting assists. It's really good for that. The gun reloads quick. You can scout really quickly. You can build these up if you stick around the team, and I think that's the most important thing you should try and do, is just know that this tank isn't capable on its own, stay with everyone else, and just help them out as much as you can, because you will get more rewards the better they do if you play the tank like a scout. And that is where I think it does work the best. Now, I've prattled on long enough. I think with this vehicle being, you know, a premium that you have to pay a lot of money for, and for it not really working easily enough to be, you know, get your money's worth from a premium, and that coupled with the tank itself as just not really being very capable, I'm going to rate it a 5 out of 10. So thank you very much for watching, guys. I am so sorry it's taken so long. It's been a bit of a weird time. Holidays are always a bit off for me, so I haven't really felt in the right mood to play and make something. And the way I've learnt it is that if I'm not in the right mood to make something, I'm not going to make it well. You know, it's going to end up something that I'm going to have to scrap and redo. So I did wait until I felt right making it again. So, you know, I do apologise for that, hand on heart. And hopefully, as I'm getting back into the rhythm of things a bit, I can get this one out and get another one out straight away right afterwards. So hopefully that's going to be the way it goes. I know I say that every time, I know I say that every time as well, but this time, fingers crossed, things will start going a lot quicker. So thank you for sticking with me, all of you. Hope you've had a wonderful holiday, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.